Let us chant Namo Tassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. We'll be starting today on the final chapter of the Abhidhamma Sangraha, being the Kammatthana Sangraha. Now, the compendium of meditation subjects.
Bhante, I thought we are doing something else today. The Chetasikas and Chittas, that's what you asked to prepare?
No. So the Chitta, the Chetasika, the Sangaha, and the Sangha.
Sampa something, yeah. Sampa.
Sampa Yoga. Sampa
The Sangha,
Sampa
Yoga, I asked for you to start revising whilst we go along with this last chapter, because one, many of the contents and even more of the last chapter and contents of the last chapter have already been discussed during our sutta classes, during our meditation classes. And because of that, I asked for you, because it is a lot of reading involved in this chapter, I asked for you to revise through the Sampayoga and the Sangraha, so that after this section, this chapter, we will be able to then continue with or go on to the book on Dhamma Center, where we will need the Sampayoga and the Sangraha. Yeah. So carry on your revising with the Sampayoga and the Sangraha. And we will, in line, continue with the Kammatthana Sangraha of this chapter. And then we will continue, finish this book and start our next book, which is the Dhamma Center, the first book on the Abhidhamma.
Is it the Dhamma Sangini or the Visuddhi Magga, Bhante?
No, Dhamma Sangani. We are going to be starting the Dhamma Sangani after this book.
Yeah, after chapter 9.
Yes. So Visuddhimagga is not, doesn't have anything to do with the Abhidhamma per se. The Dhamma Sangani. Yeah.
Bhante, excuse me.
Yeah.
The Dhamma Sangani, I could buy online, I suppose. Like,
No need to buy. I will be giving a handout.
oh,
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you.
okay, thank you.
All right. Now, the Kammatthana Sangraha Vibhanga. From here on, I will explain in order the two types of meditation subject for the respective development of calm and insight, samatha and vipassana. Two types of meditation subject. The Pali term Kammatthana means literally field of actions or workplace. Field of action, workplace. The term is used to designate a subject of meditation, the workplace for the meditator to develop the special attainments in the field of contemplation, right? In the field of contemplation. I do like that word, the workplace, which has been used, which is actually a word that in the Aranya, they use that word a lot. I have not heard that word being used out of the Aranyas, but in the Aranyas, I know they use this word, this workplace word a lot. In Buddhism, two approaches to meditative development are recognized: calm and insight. Of the two, the development of insight is the distinctively Buddhistic form of meditation. Of the two, the development of insight is a distinctively Buddhistic form of meditation. This system of meditation is unique to the Buddha's teaching and is intended to generate direct personal realization of the truths discovered and enunciated by the Buddha. The development of calm is also found in non-Buddhist schools of meditation. However, in the Buddha's teaching, calming meditation is taught because the serenity and concentration which it engenders provide a firm foundation for the practice of insight meditation. Each of the two types of meditation has its own methodology and range of meditation subjects to be explained in the course of this chapter. Calm and insight. Calm and insight. The word samatha, rendered calm, denotes quietude of mind. The word is almost synonymous with concentration, samadhi. Though it derives from a different root, sam, meaning to become peaceful, technically, samatha is defined as the one-pointedness of mind. Chittasya ekagata. In the 8 meditative attainments, the 4 fine material sphere jhanas of the Suttanta, 5 in the Abhidhamma, we remember that, yes, everyone? Yeah? And the 4 immaterial sphere jhanas, these attainments are called calm because, owing to the one-pointedness of mind, the wavering or trepidation of the mind is subdued and brought to an end. Subdued and brought to an end. The word vipassana, rendered insight, is explained as seeing in diverse ways. Vividhakaratho dasana. Insight is the direct meditative perception of phenomena in terms of the 3 characteristics: impermanence, suffering, and non-self. Right? So that would be the definition of vipassana, everyone. Insight is the direct meditative perception of phenomena. The most important part is specifically in terms of the 3 characteristics: impermanence, suffering, and non-self. It is a function of the Cetasika of wisdom directly towards uncovering the true nature of things. The explanation of calm and insight meditation in this chapter of the Abhidhamma Sangraha is a summary of the entire Visuddhimagga, to which the reader is referred for an elaborate treatment of these topics. Samatha Sangraha. Any questions, anyone? Any questions? We are good? All right. Now, Samatha Sangraha, basic categories, meditation subjects. Therein, in the compendium of calm, first, the compendium of meditation subjects for the developing calm is sevenfold. 10 kasinas, 10 kinds of foulness, 10 recollections, 4 illimitables, 1 perception, 6 1 analysis, and 7 4 immaterial states. all accounting to 40. Guide to verse 2. These 7 categories amount to 40 separate meditation subjects to be enumerated in verse 6 to 12. See table 9.1. See table 9.1. We'll come to that. Right. Temperaments. The compendium of temperaments is 6-fold. The lustful, the hateful, the deluded, the faithful, the intellectual, and the discursive. And the discursive. Temperament, charita, means personal nature. Personal nature. There's a book on Abhidhamma which goes deeper into temperaments, which is the Puggala Panyati as well, which goes into far great detail with regards to temperament and judging of character as well. Means personal nature. The character of a person as revealed by his or her natural attributes and conduct. The temperaments of people differ owing to the diversity of their past karmas. The commentators state that temperament is determined by karma productive of the rebirth linking consciousness. The commentators state that the temperament is determined by the karma productive of the rebirth linking consciousness. Right? Rebirth linking consciousness. Now, what does that mean, everyone? The commentators state that the temperament is determined by karma productive of the rebirth linking consciousness. Which karmas are we referring to here? Anyone? Which karmas would we be referring to in this regard?
Janaka?
Janaka karmas, right? Janaka karmas. Of the 6 temperaments, the lustful and the faithful types form a parallel pair. The lustful and the faithful form a parallel pair since both involve a favorable attitude towards the object. Right? Favorable attribute towards the object. It is said that it is very difficult for one to discern between a lustful and a faithful charita. Right? Because the way that they would behave and conduct themselves are very similar. Very, very similar. Yeah. One unwholesome, the other wholesome. So too, the hateful and the intellectual temperaments form a parallel pair. Intellectual and the hateful temperaments form a parallel pair. Since in an unwholesome way, hate turns away from its object, while intelligence just does so through the discovery of genuine faults. Right? Of genuine faults. The deluded and the discursive temperaments also form a pair. The deluded and the discursive temperaments also form a pair. Discursive here. Buddhi charita, Vitakka charita. Right? Vitakka charita. Right? Discursive. Buddhi charita, Vitakka charita. Right. The deluded and the discursive temperament also form a pair, since a deluded person vacillates owing to superficiality while the discursive one does so due to facile speculation. Right? For more on the temperaments, see Vishuddhimagga. Development. Now, because the fact that we are reading about the temperaments here, the reason for that is because the meditation subjects and the way that we approach the meditation subject would change, determined by or owing to the temperament that the person has, right? Owing to the temperament the person has. So, for example, if we are to take a meditation object such as, let us say, Anapanasati, which is a very unbiased sort of meditation subject, something which is in nature different to something such as a meditation subject, such as, let us say, Metta Bhavana, right? It's different in nature. It is more sort of unbiased in nature, if we are to sort of look at it in that manner, right? The way, regardless whether it's be Metta or Anapanasati, if we take Anapanasati, a person who is an intellectual will approach Anapanasati in a specific manner. A person who is lustful will approach Anapanasati in a different manner. How? Right? How? A person who is lustful we took, and a person who is intellectual, right? Intellectual. How? The intellectual person's focus, right, would be to keep exact track of the movement of the breath, right? His focus would be to keep exact, to watch over like a hawk the breath, in a sense of like being obsessed with the breath and the motion of the breath, right? Holding too close, infatuated with the breath, right? With the breath, because of the analytical streak that person has. The lustful would take the object obsessing over perfection. Doing the meditation properly, prim and proper, to the exact word of advice. The lustful character will obsess over reaching a state of perfection. The intellectual will want to know, will watch not for perfection, but to know everything that is going on. Do you understand? Right? Thus it would change. Now, if we are to now take lustful and Shraddha, what we just read to be very similar in nature, right? The lustful person and the Shraddha person would both want to achieve a sense of perfection. The lustful person will want perfection for the sake of perfection. That is the person's characteristic. The Shraddha person will want perfection for the sake of it being the teachings of the Buddha. Do you understand, everyone? Right? The Kusala and the Akusala. Right? Kusala and the Akusala. But very similar. Now, of course, why we are doing it is known to us, and it's known to a very good teacher who is able to see through these characteristic traits. Right? Others will not know. Others might just blatantly think, oh, very focused, Shraddha, all of that. Is that understood? So temperament we speak about because it forms the basis of how we would approach meditation, any meditation actually, vipassana or samatha. Now, development. Parikamma bhavana. The three stages of mental development are preliminary development, parikarma bhavana, access development, upachara bhavana, and absorption development, appana bhavana or arpana bhavana. Pali appana, Sinhala arpana, right? Absorption development. Preliminary development occurs from the time one begins the practice of meditation up to the time the 5 hindrances are suppressed and the counterpart sign emerges. Again, preliminary development, parikarma bhavana, occurs from the time one begins the practice of meditation up to the time the 5 hindrances are suppressed and the counterpart sign emerges, right? The counterpart sign emerges. One might think, what is a counterpart sign? We will come to that. Access development, upachara bhavana, occurs when the 5 hindrances become suppressed and the counterpart sign emerges. Again, access development occurs when the 5 hindrances become suppressed and the counterpart sign emerges. It endures from the moment the counterpart sign arises up to the change of lineage, Gotrapu, in the cognitive process culminating in the jhana. Culminating in the jhana, right? So preliminary development from the time you start practicing up to the time the counterpart sign emerges, right? Upachara, now when you reach upachara or at this sort of foothold of upachara, what happens, everyone? Upachara, it is like upachara, right? When this word upachara, what it means is, it is like you are before a gateway. You are before the entrance, right before a gateway. When you have come so far and you have arrived at the gateway, you will enter the gateway. Do you understand what I'm saying? Meaning, it is said that a person who reaches upachara will go on to arpana. Do you understand, everyone? Is that clear? It is as if parikarma, from the time that you've started on a journey. You've come long, you've come far, and you've come to just before the position or the place that you want to reach. You are at the gateway to the town or the kingdom. So you've come far, and when you come to the gateway, you've not entered, that is called upachara, everyone. Do you understand? And it is said, when you reach upachara, arpana will follow. Right? Arpana will follow. Now, you have seen the suppression of hindrances mentioned under parikarma and upachara, which might be confusing to some. Remember, up until even after arpana, as we progress from the first to the second to the third, and so on, from each jhana absorption, each higher jhana absorption, the hindrances are further suppressed. Do you understand? Is that clear? Right? So do not confuse yourself. This is only speaking about the fact that further hindrances are suppressed deeper when you go from parikarma up to upachara and upachara to arpana. Do you understand? Is that clear, everyone? Right? When the hindrances are suppressed, the mind is able to go deeper, and its level of focus, becomes far more sharper with the process of progress. Is that clear? With the process of progress. So preliminary, the hindrances suppress, the counterpart sign emerges. Now we also saw that preliminary development, parikarma bhavana, we saw a sign. Let me just see. Yes, the signs are here in the next section. The signs are explained, right? So I will not waste time there, right? So we will speak about that when the sign comes. So access occurs from when the 5 hindrances, if we say further suppressed, and the counterpart sign emerges. Remember that this is a further polished counterpart sign, different from the parikarma nimittas sign. Is that clear, everyone? And we will go into that section next. It endures from the moment the counterpart sign arises up to the change of lineage, right? Change of lineage. Change of lineage means now your mind has changed in its attribute to go into a deeper experience of the jhana. Do you understand? Right? Go through. In the cognitive process, culminating in jhana. Culminating in jhana. The chitta that immediately follows go through is absorption. This marks the beginning of absorption development, which occurs at the level of the fine material sphere jhanas or the immaterial sphere jhanas. Now, let's go a bit deeper, right? Parikarma, deeper in a sense to explain this in a different way, but I'll go a little bit deeper, right? Parikarma, upachara, arpana or appana. Parikarma, we have suppressed the hindrances. A very loose counterpart sign appears. We go on to access, upachara. The defilements are further suppressed. The counterpart sign first obtained now polishes and becomes far more clearer. And then when arpana emerges, absorption development emerges, this is when gotrabhu happens or the shift of lineage happens and we enter into jhana itself, right? Just imagine in this, what happens, this process, what we see is the defilements, pancha, the defilements occur, right, anchored by something. The defilements occur anchored by something. What is this something, everyone? This something is me, myself, and I. What is me, myself, and I? Me, myself, and I is the pancha upadana skandha. Right? Because me, myself, and I is attributed through me in rupa, me in vedana, sanya, sankhara, vijnana. Right? Vijnana. So all of these different, the 5 different aspects of the 5 aggregates, we attribute to as me, myself, and I. It is through then the taking of object that we apply the Panchupadana Skandha again and again and again and again. The Panchupadana Skandha, or our tying down to the Panchupadana Skandha, the 5 aggregates of clinging, happens now through the taking of object. Where do we take objects from? The 5 senses. The 5 senses. Right? The 5 senses. The 5 senses takes object, and every time the 5 senses takes object in a normal mundane sense, we apply me, myself, and I. Atma Sanya. Atma Sanya, the perception of self. Is that clear? In the perception of self, now we are observing objects, or we are taking objects. Through these objects, we apply Atma Sanya. Right? We apply Atma Sanya. This is through the prapanchas, tanha, ditthi, mana. This happens. Right? Now, let us come down to what we are just reading now. We have a samatha meditation object before us. We contemplate. We we now arouse a counterpart sign. Then if you remember, we leave the physical samatha object and we continue to cultivate the mental object or the counterpart sign. What is this counterpart sign and how is it special? The counterpart sign is a manifestation of the clarity of mind and clarity of focus possible to the mind with the level of hindrances that are currently arising in the mind. Does that make sense, everyone? There is the clarity of mind, the clarity of thought, and the clarity of focus that the mind has. These two, because they are anchored down or held down by the Panchupadana-skandha, the Sakasanya, the Atma-sanya, the perception of me, myself, and I, it is weak. As we bring our attention to the counterpart sign, what happens? This anchor, because our focus is now not of the five senses. It is a Dhamma, a Mano Mansikara, which is the counterpart sign, and we re-advert to this. Mano Mansikara, the Mano Vinyana, in other words. This Mano Vinyana is done how? There is an aspect of kusala. There is an aspect of kusala, and if you know why you're doing it, or there is prajna as well there. This further suppresses the hindrances. When it further suppresses the hindrances, what it is suppressing initially is those anchors, the prapanchas, the kama tanha, the bhava tanha. That is what it's suppressing. The kama loka has upon its inhabitants. The practitioner. When we draw away from the kama loka and the objects of the kama loka, which requires the person to have the Panchupadana skandha or operate within the Panchupadana skandha, we now arrive at a position where the counterpart sign improves, the focus improves, the clarity of mind improves, the samadhi improves. Pulling away from the kamaloka allows the development within the jhana world. Do you understand? That is why jhanas can be difficult to mundane beings. Why? Because jhanas require you to literally pull out of the obsession, the dependence that we have towards a kama loka. What is a kama loka? Kama is experienced through the five senses, right? So, any sort of aversion to the five senses in repeating the process of Atma Sanya towards Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sanskara, Vinyana weakens the ability of a person to progress into the jhanas. Right? Progress into the jhanas. Even when the jhanas appear, if a strong tanha, strong lobha, dosa, or moha arises, the jhana will vanish. right? Because through these objects and what we cognize, if Lobha Dosa Moha arises above a certain level, the moment the hindrances come back, the jhanas disappear, right? The moment the hindrances come back, the jhanas disappear. Now, this marks the beginning of absorption development, which occurs at the level of the fine material sphere jhanas or the immaterial sphere jhanas. Now, why I've explained this is to explain change of lineage, Gotra. What is the experience of Gotra? Gotra happens now. What have we done? We've got a counterpart sign. We've committed to the preliminary stages of development. We've created this counterpart sign. The counterpart sign has developed. What do we see? Now, if we take this example, the person who set out on the journey because the person has heard that there is this place which has everything that you will ever need. You did not know that whether this place was true or not. To you, it might have been just hearsay. You believed the person, but you were not sure. Do you understand? But when you arrive, as I mentioned, at the gateway to this kingdom, to this place, now through the doorway, the arch, you see that what you heard was true. Do you understand? Now what happens? Now there is no turning back, right? That is what Gotrabhu is, everyone, right? In Gotrabhu, it is like, again, another example. Someone at home, you are out away, someone at home calls you and says, oh, Amma, Tata, I've cooked a lovely dinner. You won't believe that I've done it, right? It smells so wonderful. It smells so good. But in your mind, you really can't believe it, right? You really can't believe it. But then, so you don't, but of course you're excited. So you come back home, and as you open the door, the house is smelling wonderful. Do you understand? With the smell, you can say how good the food is. Do you understand? Now, just with the smell, you're convinced. They have actually done it. You've not eaten the food. With the smell of the food, you can say, oh, yeah, okay. Now I believe the person. Do you understand, everyone? You've not eaten it yet. That is Gotrabhu. In Gotrabhu, that jhana bliss is almost at the tip of your tongue, right? You feel it, you smell it. You know where it is going to go because of the vibrance, the happiness that you have in your mind at that moment. Because you start experiencing this. Because you start experiencing this. Now, change of lineage. What happens in a change of lineage? It is as if a person having a foot in one place and another foot in another place, we say in Sinhala. Now, being convinced, the person takes both feet towards the side of the jhana. Do you understand, everyone? Right? Before, you were not too sure, not too convinced. You had 2 feet in 2 sides, but now you take it to 1. Why? Because you can taste it in the air. You can feel the bliss radiating from this consciousness. Do you understand, everyone? That is Gotrabhu. It changes you right before the absorption. And what is that absorption? That absorption is the moment you enter through the arch gateway. Do you understand? Is that clear? Does Gotrabhu make sense? Yeah, that is the experience of Gotrabhu, right? Now, signs. Any questions before we move on to signs? Let's do signs and take questions. It'll be better. The three signs should be understood as one, preliminary sign, the learning sign, and the counterpart sign. Parikarma nimitta, uggaha nimitta, patibhaga nimitta. Right? Patibhaga nimitta. The preliminary sign is the original object of concentration used during the preliminary stage of practice. The learning sign, uggaha nimitta, is a replica of the object perceived in the mind exactly as it appears to the physical eye. Exactly as it appears to the physical eye. I won't say exactly, but okay. Right. So the parikarma nimitta is the original object, that is a physical object, everyone. The learning sign is when we contemplate, look upon the parikarma nimitta, a mental image of the parikarma nimitta will start to appear as a mind object. Replica of the object perceived in the mind, exactly as it appears to the physical eye. I won't use the word exactly it won't be exactly the same, right? It won't be exactly the same, but it will be very, very similar to the physical sign, right? It will be very similar to the physical sign, but it won't be exactly the same, right? As it appears to the physical eyes. The mentally visualized image, freed of all defects, is the counterpart sign. In the counterpart sign, what happens is, in the parikarma nimitta, the point of focus, how we gain or how we advert to the parikarma nimitta, we advert to the middle of the nimitta. We do not look around the object, right? We advert to a middle point of the nimitta. The visual point that we advert to in the nimitta becomes the learning sign. So for example, let us say, everyone, you are to look at my face, or we are to look at someone else's face, and we are not looking all over, right? We are looking at a certain point. Now, if we are to look all over, we can see, let us say, the blemishes of the face, the wrinkles of the face, the discoloration, isn't it? Right? But if we are looking at just one point, let us say the middle of the forehead here, we might distinctly miss some of the blemishes or whatnot, isn't it? Because that is not your main area of focus. So I think they use the word exactly here in that course, because yes, it is not exactly as a physical object is, but it is exactly as you would see at the middle point. Do you understand? Right? Because we are not going into the greater details of the nimitta, the physical nimitta. We are only looking at that middle point. And then that appears as a mental sign, and that mental sign is further polished and becomes a counterpart sign, right? Where it is the same all over, the same color, the same way, solid in nature, in the counterpart sign. The counterpart sign, it is said, appears as if breaking out of the learning sign, right? Breaking out from the learning sign, and 100 or 1,000 times more purified, right? Like the moon's disk coming out from behind a cloud, right? From the moon's disk coming out from behind a cloud. Any questions? Any questions?
Bhante,
Hmm.
if you use Patavi Kasina, yeah, because this I have done this, that I have said. If you use Patavi Kasina in front of you and look at it,
Yeah.
right? And then you keep on contemplating on the disc, right? And then when you shut your eyes, then you still see the disc, right? It's a sort of in your mind, you have the same disc that you have been looking at will appear in your when you shut your eyes. So the person who taught me this meditation, and he explained that that's the Udraha Nimitta. And so it is not perfect. There are some defects in it. It's not complete 100%. And if you keep on contemplating on that Udraha Nimitta, then you improve the image quality of that disc and gradually change into counterpart science.
Yes.
Right? That's why he explained, my guru explained to me that. Is it correct? Yeah.
Well, the initially, when we look at the Patavi, it is correct. But one part of it is, or one point to remember is, when we look at Patavi, right? When we look at Patavi, just like Damsari, if we are to look at the moon continuously, or the sun, the light sort of, not the bright sun, we can't do that, but the faded sun, and then we close our eyes, we will see that sort of, sun, but not clearly, but as a very sort of fading object, we will see it.
Yeah.
Right? We must not mistake that to be the Uggaha, right? Because the Uggaha, if we remember, the Vishuddhimagga also says this, the Uggaha should be protected, right? Protected, you have to go far from the physical side, right? So when we start seeing a faint shadow of the object, if I might use the word shadow of the object, when we close our eyes, that is not yet enough for it to be a solid Uggaha. Because a solid Uggaha, we have to be able to travel far and still have it, right? The initial phase of that Uggaha would fade if we do not still continue and have a clean, not perfect, but it will be rather visual as we contemplate it. It is not a simple shadow. Does that make sense? It is not a simple shadow. We can literally see the object. It is not clear by any means. It is blurry, right? However, you know it's there. And every time that you close your eyes, you can vividly see it. That is the object that we have to take, because this object has to be something that we can carry with us on that long journey away from that physical kasina that we completed. Yeah. So some go or separate themselves from the physical kasina too early. Too early, before a proper Uggaha is cultivated. Does that make sense, Damsari? Yeah. Because we do see, especially now, if we would take a Varna Kasina, right, red or yellow or orange, which are bright colors, because of this color, and if you're in a very lit up room, because of the color dissonance that happens, this color can stick, especially like a color like red can stick, yellow, orange, because they are in that spectrum. They can stick very easily, right? But doesn't mean that that's the Uggah Nimitta. You stick with it a bit more, it's blurry. It's like a smudged image. But that smudged, blurry image, even in that quality, can travel with us, right? That part is important. Because some, when they leave too early, what happens is the nimitta is weak, it will disappear. Right? The nimitta is weak, it will disappear. Also, when the nimitta is too weak, what that means is the hindrances are not suppressed enough. Yeah, the hindrances are not suppressed enough. That is also why, well, you know, young kids, kids who are coming from stable backgrounds or stable homes can study easily as well, right? Because they're able to absorb better, right? When you have less kilesa, that is also why kids can meditate far better and faster, develop themselves compared to adults who have such frantic lives, right? Because kids, in that sense, have lesser kilesas in them, right? Now, yes, Dil.
Thank you. Can you hear me, Bhante? Bhante, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. So my experience has been, and I would like you to explain whether what that means, is that, so when you look at whatever the objective of the casting, and if it's pottery like that, I have used this with a color, not with the earth. And the color I have used is gold, yellowy gold. And the reason is that when you are looking, like you said, if you look at the outline of the whole kasina and you keep on looking, after some time, yes, and if you shut your eyes, you can see the outline of it, not very clearly, but that is fairly soon you can see. So for example, you're looking at a picture, and when you shut the eye, and I think in the apps and all, you get that in the thing that there's a Buddha with a tita here, and you look at it, and if you go very quickly, close your eyes, you can see the Buddha Rupa, even the close your eyes with this tita, right? But as you said, Bhante, because it's fairly soon, because you've been looking at the whole thing, because it's fairly soon, this is my understanding, I may be perfectly wrong, and the hindrances are not surprised, it's not clearly marked enough to go to further. On the other hand, I always use the Buddha Rupa, which is in the Amaravati temple, because it's beautiful gold. And when you go at a time when you can sit in front, unlike when the monks are there, you can't. And when you look at, so you first see this beautiful Buddha Rupa, and of course, there's a lot of gratitude and everything that comes up. So your mind is on a higher vibration. And then the thing that you mentioned, you go to the center, and what we look at is always the center. And when I meditate with some of the yogis, of course, they are doing some of the meditation, but they also have this kind of, their leader, which is usually like a saint, what they call it. And you look at always, they say, you look at this Agnya Chakra, that's the way they explain. But when you look at that point there, now from that figure of that person, you are concentrating on this, on that one point. That's an entirely different thing, because you come, like what you mentioned, to one point like that. Now you've got to keep on doing it much more, and then for a longer time. And that I find is a much better. This took me a lot of practice to do, to realize I didn't know all this, what you are teaching me then. But when you have stayed long enough and focused, but the yogis always tell you this, right? But we are not told that in the temple, right? To do this. So because I had done it with the yogis, that I looked at it in the temple like that, and the color, because color is a cousin, and that yellows and things are good, and that the rupa in the temple in Amaravati is pure gold plated. So, and it's got a lot of bright and shine, and the color is also got the proper vibrator. But if you go from that beautiful picture that of the Buddha that is so serene to this center of that, and I look at what you said, the forehead in that I learned from these other yogis. And now you got to wait, you're waiting much longer. And then when you shut the eye, that has a greater power. And I mean, nobody explained or something. So when I just picked it up and you were saying, go to the center. So it's not, because otherwise as you close, you can see this figure. Anything that you look up, and you can see this, but it's not strong enough. And so very soon it disappears. But if you do what you said, Bhante, go to the center, you have to wait much longer. And then the hindrances are, because your ekagata focus, all these 5 hindrances are much more suppressed because you're focused. And that takes a little longer. So that had been my experience, Bhante. I don't know why or what, but from what you say, I can like connect, what the experience I had, what I had with the yogis, and explain in a samatha way, the way that they do. And then coming back to the kasina and thing, and what you are explaining, go to the center. That's the important thing. You look at the center at the middle of it. And I think when we were doing, I think when Bhante, you were explaining, you did say when you see that light, whatever. And for me, it was easy because I was looking at a gold color kasina. And then when you keep on going to the center and you keep on at the center, it gets much clearer. And it stays longer, Bhante, rather than just the outside, which very quickly you can see the picture, but it doesn't last long and you can't progress more. But this is just an experience I'm sharing, Bhante. Thank you.
All right. So the 40 meditation subjects, the kasinas. How? The 10 kasinas, earth kasina, the water kasina, the fire kasina, the air kasina, the blue kasina, the yellow kasina, the red kasina, the white kasina, space kasina, and the light kasina. The 10 kasinas. The word kasina means whole or totality. It is so called because the counterpart sign is to be expanded and extended wherever without limitation. Right? Wherever without limitation. What that means is when the kasina is developed, the kasina objects can be expanded all throughout your area of perception. Right? For example, if your awareness seems to be like a globe, like you're inside a globe, you can spread the kasina all throughout the 4 corners of attention. Does that make sense? Right? For example, if I am now looking at the computer and then I see the 4 corners of the room in my span of attention, the kasina that is there can be spread all throughout the 4 corners of attention. Do you understand? Right? To saturate every part of your mind. Right? That is what the absorption is. Right? Now, the earth kasina. In the case of the earth kasina, one prepares a disc of about 30 centimeters in diameter, covers it with clay, which the color of dawn, and smoothens it well. This is a kasina disc, which serves as a preliminary sign for developing the earth kasina. One then places the disc about a meter away and concentrates on it with the eyes partly opened, contemplating it as earth. To develop the water kasina, one may use a vessel full of clear water and contemplate it as water. Yeah. to develop the fire kasana. So for example, some have also done water meditating near wells, circular shaped wells, right? Or placing a frame on water, right? So what is important is that circular sign. Yeah. This is because the shape, circular shape, is because of no other reason than if we take, for example, a square. It's quite intriguing to look at the corner of the square. You can get distracted from one corner to the next corner, right? If you take a rectangle or a triangle, you go from triangle to 3 corners. You see, you know what I mean? In a circle, it is quite the same, isn't it? Right? The attention span, the distractions that can appear is quite less. That is why the earth kasana, it says there's a color, and usually what they do is the clay, right? Because the clay, usually what they do is humbas. Humbas is anthills, isn't it? The sand part, the soil from a anthill, right? So usually in the Aranyas across mountains, we have humbas, or rather these ant hills. So, and the ants leave, right? They sometimes they whatever, and it's not there. We don't destroy sort of ant hills that are still kind of propagating, but and then this sort of soil that you see on top, you take it, you dissolve it in, or rather put water into it and make it into a clay-like thing. And then you filter this, or rather strain it. I'm sorry, not filter, strain it. Then you have a clay that is the same color and without those it doesn't have a texture. It has a smooth texture, right? A smooth texture. Now this clay, often we would take, the reason we would mainly make this, right, is when you spill oil or something, right? Oil or oil on a robe, you put this humbas and you dry it, right? It would absorb all the oil from the robe, right? So then you sort of put the humbas and you dry the robe, and then you wash it away. You wash it again after it's fully dry and all the oil is gone. This is the main reason we make the humbas, right? This clay. But you can also take it and use it to smother and soothe over a kasina. So when the clay is strained, because of the smooth texture, it doesn't have any particular sort of coarseness in texture. So your attention will not be distracted from the coarseness also. Yes, Dhamma.
Defects. Yeah.
Defects the coarseness. It's smooth. So the attention, it can't, because if you have a large particle of, let's say, sand or ground in it, the mind will go to that as well, right? So that is why it has a smooth texture to it, right? To develop the water kasana, one may use a vessel full of clear water and contemplate it as water. To develop the fire kasana, one may kindle a fire and view it through a hole in a piece of leather or a piece of cloth, right? One can also do it with a frame placed in front of a fireplace, right? Thinking fire. One who develops the air kasana concentrates on the wind that enters through a window or an opening in the wall, thinking air, or even the movement of the leaves or whatnot. But the air kasana can be quite difficult to contemplate upon, because usually the way the perceival of the air kasana can be quite distracting. For example, if you're looking at a tree and you're contemplating the air kasina, you can be distracted very easily with the leaves, with the sound. Do you understand? If it is now, let us say, if it is now in high points, like on top of a mountain or a rock that is on top of a mountain, when you go on top of this, right, and you look down, it is all trees that you would see. When the wind brushes, there is no one specific, all the same tree, right? And when you are looking down at this jungle, this forest, right, and you see the brushing of the wind, you see the wind brushing through the forest, right? Your mind doesn't go to, oh, this is this kind of a tree, this is this kind of a tree. No, you see the whole, because the trees are quite small and it's all just green that you see. Do you understand? Yeah. So the wind brushing against that motion that you see in the greenery can be used as the air kasina as well. So as long as, now, if I'm to take this example of me sitting in this room where I can see some trees in the park in front, now that is quite distracting. Why? Because the trees are different, right? The leaves can be seen, and I can be distracted with so many other elements that are to do with the wind and the motion of the wind, right? So all of this, now we know within the Vishuddhamagga, it speaks about water kasina being developed by one just looking out at the sea, right? But of course, if for us or for those who do not have prior kasina experience, right, it can be quite distracting. Do you understand? So a calm sea, when a sea is calm, perfect. But when there is so much of motion in the sea, it can be very difficult. Do you understand, everyone? So basically what we see here is a controlled environment where we can distinctively cultivate or focus on the cultivation of the mind, or the kasina rather, without distraction. That is why all these details are given. Is that understood, everyone? Yeah. To develop the fire kasina, one may kindle a fire and weave it through a hole in a piece of leather or piece of cloth, thinking fire, fire. One who develops the air kasina concentrates on the wind that enters through a window or an opening in the wall, thinking air, air. Any questions? To develop the color kasinas, one may prepare a disc of the prescribed size and color it blue, yellow, red, or white. Now, when we take a color kasina of blue, yellow, red, or white, right, we take these colors also as a circle, right? Again, controlled environment to avoid distractions. Then one should develop concentration upon it by mentally repeating the name of the color. One may even prepare an object from flowers of the required color. The light kasina may be developed by concentrating on the moon or an unflickering lamplight, even a torch on a wall, shining a torch against a wall, or a circle of light cast on the ground, right? Circle of light cast on the ground, on a beam of sunlight or moonlight entering through a wall crevice or hole or cast on a wall. The space kasina can be developed by concentrating on a hole about 30 centimeters in diameter, contemplating it as space. For a full treatment of the kasina, see the Vishuddhamagga. Any questions, anyone? Now, foulness. The 10 kinds of foulness are a bloated corpse, a livid corpse, a festering corpse, a dismembered corpse, an eaten corpse, a scattered in pieces corpse, a mutilated corpse, a scattered in pieces corpse, a bloody corpse, a worm-infested corpse, and a skeleton. Maybe we should look at some pictures of such corpses. The 10 kinds of foulness are corpses in different stages of decay. This set of meditation subject is especially recommended for the removing sensual lust. Right? For removing sensual lust. Right? So these corpses, of course, Uddumataka, Vinilaka, Vipubbaka, Vichiddaka, all of these terms, if we look at the Vishuddhimagga, will have a clear differentiation between it. Right? Now, Uddumataka is very specific, right? So this specific nature of the corpse at that point, right? It is again to avoid that distraction. We look at a very specific part of the corpse to see the reality. It is not just because, remember, this is samatha. You just staring at a corpse is not going to do it to anyone. Of course, if you have previous life practices, yes, of course, that can come up. But to a person without such, these different times or stages of rot that we experience with a corpse is defined categorically, and it is that specific part or that specific level of rot that we contemplate on, right? Just staring at a corpse does not do it. Dil, did you have something to ask? No, right? Okay. Now, the recollections. Buddhanusati, Dhammanusati. The 10 recollections are the recollection of the Buddha, the recollection of the Dhamma, the recollection of the Sangha, the recollection of morality, the recollection of generosity, the recollection of the Devas, the recollection of peace, the recollection of death, mindfulness occupied with the body, and mindfulness of breathing. Right? Kayagata sati and anapana sati. Right? All falls under the 10 recollections. The recollection of the Buddha. The first 3 recollections are practiced by calling to mind the virtues of the Buddha, the Dhamma, or the Sangha, as enumerated in the traditional formulas. Right? That is Buddha Dhamma, Sangha Anusati. The recollection of morality is a practice of mindfully recollecting the special qualities of virtuous conduct considered as untorn and free from breach and blemish. Right? Free from breach and blemish. This Silanusati is very specific. It's a very unique, and also Devanusati, Silanusati, Devanusati are very unique aspects, or it's very different from yes, it's very different from the other types of Samatha Bhavana that we see, right? Because integrally what we do is we look at a specific sila and then we go deeper into it in a way that we make the sila itself a sign and contemplate on the purity or the level of purity that the sila exists in. Does that make sense? Now let us say, let me take this example. Let us say, if we take, let us say, the taking of life, right? The taking of life, Panatipata. The taking of life, if we are to take Panatipata, we first acknowledge the fact that through our course of life, we have not taken life. That we can acknowledge. But let us say, first let's discuss a person who has never taken life. Makes that the basis for the calmness in mind. Now, the Vishuddhimagga goes into then saying, how is Panatipata untorn, free from bleach or any form of blemish? Danagana, no danagana. I didn't do it knowing, I haven't done it unknowingly. Do you understand? In both aspects, right? With intention, without intention, not done it, right? We can go on to then making that a basis of our samadhi. Now, for example, when we go into holy sites, right? The vibration and the fact that we have now made it to this holy site too calms our mind. In such a manner, the seal or what we are looking for or what we are now contemplating can be used as a basis for our calm, our samadhi. Now, what if it has happened? It has happened, right? Let us say killing of a mosquito, right? Or a cockroach or spider. It has happened. Right? What do we? It has happened in the past. We don't do it now. In that case, how does the contemplation go? From the day that I learned of its wrong, do you understand? From the day that I learned of its wrong, I have not done it. Right? I remember me, Navani Abhidhamma Chapter, he does this Silanusati Bhavana. I don't know if you've heard it. It's absolutely beautiful, right? He inspires those who are listening, right? To go. What he does is from the beginning, Manamuna Dawasi Dakwa, right? And he goes through this list, absolutely awing, right? The list of things that he has not ever done, list of things that he has never harbored, right? And you listen to this. I'll try to find it. I should have it. It's absolutely beautiful. I've actually only heard it once done in person, right? But I should have it with me. And he goes through the different stages. It is like a contemplation, right? And the people who just listen to it, and you hear obvious now in Abhidhamma Chapter, right? He was considered even superior to God, if we can say. I mean, people respected. I mean, now in his Chapter, he's an absolute holy figure, and he was respected like that. And you go through and you listen, and people say, for everyone's people are sadhu, 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 and it all adds to that sort of moment, right? And you find yourself in an absolute hypnosis with following Bhante, and you regard yourself, and you And that is his Silanusati, right? And that is his Silanusati. So when we go into the differentiations between this Silanusati, we find this ability to use that frame of mind, that fact that we have not done something, or that sort of sense of discipline as a subject of our meditation. That is what Silanusati becomes or is, right? And this is again sort of categorically untorn, free from bleach, blemish. These are categorically defined as well, right? Now, okay. Now let's look at this. Good, there's a chart in this chapter. I was getting a bit bored already. Without a chart. Okay. Now, Hasina. Earth, fire, earth, water, fire, air. Temperament, all temperaments can do this, right? All temperaments can do this, or it is suitable, rather not that it can do this, it is suitable for all temperaments, right? In earth, fire, earth, water, fire and air, you have the parikarma, the upachara and the arpana, right? Then as a sign, you have the parikarma, the learning, the preliminary sign, the learning sign, and the concentration. That is the last sign, right? Jhana can go from the first jhana all the way to the fifth jhana. That applies to all the kasinas and the varna kasinas and light and space, right? And light and space, right? Here in the light and space, the blue, yellow, red, and white is suitable more to those temperaments of hate. Those with the temperament of hate, right? Those with the temperament of hate. When we take the foulness meditation, the object, these are suitable for those with a lustful temperament, right? It goes to the phases of development from parikarma, upachara to appana, has preliminary to concentration as a sign. Those signs appear. However, you can only achieve the first jhana through asubha. And attika sanya as well. Skeleton is also here at the end. And attika sanya. You can only go up to the first. Do we know why? Can anyone say why you can only do the first or go up to the first?
Jhanas have a lot of joy in them. So that, because the first jhana, there you have what you actually remove of. There is the thinamid, the slot and the top, but the other jhanas have all the others, the piti, sukha and everything else. So in the first jhana, you can have, but those things, you can't go with this degree of foulness and things, you can't go to the higher jhana. I don't know, I'm just thinking.
Yes, correct. But there's also another reason. The one thing is, Dil, as you correctly mentioned, there is no sense of piti that arises from this, right? But the other thing is, these nimittas that we derive, right, are not, they don't get strong enough for fifth jhana cultivation or to go anything beyond the first jhana, right? Why that is now everyone, there was a sense of, it was in a sense unified. Now, if you would take earth is the same. Air is the same. Fire is the same. Isn't that? Right? If you take a Varna Kasina, red, blue, green, whatever, it's the same. Isn't it, everyone? Right? Space, same. Light, same. Right? There's a sense of similarity, or it's the same. Right? When you now have a nimitta out of that, that nimitta can be spread. Now, what are we developing a nimitta out of here? A corpse, a bloated corpse, a discolored corpse. The object is very ambiguous. Do you get what I mean? It's very ambiguous. Like, how can I say, now, if we are looking at a person, right now, if I am looking at any one of you and describing the features, right, it's very ambiguous, right? You can't go into a deep jhana based off that. Do you understand? Right? The nimitta that is cultivated through the foulness meditation is not that strong to go beyond the first jhana. To go beyond the first jhana makes even more sense in the next section. Buddhanusati, Dhammanusati, Sanghanusati. Now, Preeti can be there. However, very ambiguous. Does that make sense, everyone? Right? Very ambiguous, because look at, there are different qualities. Right? That sense of one-pointedness is very difficult to arise in taking a whole nimitta, in taking that whole nimitta. So the nimitta that is produced is weak. Is that clear? Right? To go into jhana in the Buddhanusati, Dhammanusati, Sanghanusati, it is the same all the way up until death, Marananusati. All the way up until death. Is that clear, everyone?
Bhante, question.
Oops, sorry.
Bhante, when it comes to Ashubha Dasaka, so it has, you can reach first jhana, right?
Asubha.
Yeah, first jhana, but first jhana has got Preeti, Sukha.
But it's weak. It's
But
not.
first jhana has got Vitaka, Vichara, Preeti, Sukha and Ekagata.
Yeah.
You have Preeti.
But it's not so strong as you go up in the
Ah.
that, like what Bhante said, it's not strong enough.
No, no. My God, stop silly. Well, the main reason is that it is ambiguous.
Yeah, okay.
Right, that it is ambiguous, meaning the nimitta cannot form.
Nimitta is not strong enough. Yeah.
The nimitta is not strong enough for it to go into. That is why.
Yeah.
That is why. Yeah, the nimitta is simply not strong enough.
Bhante, is that also because now you said it must be homogeneous and things like, so like the water and all, where you strain it. But if you look at something decomposing, it's not homogeneous. So
Yes.
Right. Thank you, Bhante.
Meaning, we realize now, for example, the difference between a bloated and a discolored corpse is in the fact of its different features.
Mm.
Right? When you're considering all of those features, the nimitta becomes weak. Right? The nimitta becomes weak. Because how many aspects are present, are we taking as object for that nimitta? That is why. Right? So, yeah. Now, Buddhanusati, Dhammanusati, Sanghanusati, Marananusati, right? Marananusati. Mananusati. All the way up until Mananusati, there is no jhana, right? Now, when we take Buddhanusati, Dhammanusati, Sanghanusati, only parikarma and upachara arises. There is no arpana. Parikarma and upachara, no arpana. Why? No jhana. Right? In the sign also, parikarma and learning comes. A preliminary and learning comes, but no concentration. Why? No jhana.
No counterpart sign.
Counterpart sign.
Yeah.
Counterpart sign. No counterpart sign, no jhana. Thank you.
Yeah.
No counterpart sign because no jhana. Right? But preliminary and learning can arise, but no counterpart sign. It doesn't go beyond. Why? Again, too ambiguous.
Yeah.
Right? Buddhanusati, Dhammanusati, Sanghanusati, suitable for faithful Pudgalas. Morality, generosity, and Devanusati, suitable for faith, Shraddha, right? But in these cases, morality, development, parikarma, and arpana can be there. Parikarma and upachara can be there, but nothing beyond that. No jhana, right? Sign, preliminary, and learning, but no counterpart sign. But no counterpart sign. All the way till death, right? Death. Now, peace and death is suitable for an intellectual, right? Intellectual mind. Why? Intellectual mind, there's a lot of peace, and death has a lot of analysis there, those signs. It has a lot of analysis there, right? However, again, nimitta is weak, so the object is too ambiguous, so no jhana, right? The body, kayagata sati, is suitable for the lustful. Parikarma, upachara, arpana arises, also preliminary, learning, and counterpart sign, and leads to the first jhana. Anapanasati can take you all the way from the first to the fifth, meaning all three levels of development and all three levels of sign. Right? All three levels of development and all three levels of sign. Breathing is good for those of a deluded temperament and a discursive temperament. Right? Deluded temperament and discursive temperament. Yes, Padma?
In the first thing, why is the colored cussiness used for hateful temperament? What's the reason there? That's the blue, yellow, red, and white, and it says hateful temperament.
Yes.
Why is that?
The hateful temperament, hateful is friction. Right?
It's what?
Friction.
Friction, okay. Yeah.
Right. Now,
right.
When we are taking, let us take a sign such as generosity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Silanusati.
Mm-hmm.
Or let us say morality, Silanusati, Chaganusati. Right? These morality-based subject and the generosity. Now, if we take that, the hateful Pudgala will find it a little bit difficult because his temperament is hate. He will pick holes and parts in both morality and generosity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When it comes to whatever you want to say, don't say. When it comes to Varna Kasinas, it's a very unbiased form of object.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
When it comes to Varna Kasinas, it's a very unbiased form of object. When the unbiased form of object, now you cannot relate the color blue to anything or color red to anything. Get what I mean?
Mhm.
So because of that reason, the hateful person, it is not to say that it can only be practiced by the hate, but it is suitable for the hateful.
Okay, right.
Because the hateful cannot pick holes in the color.
Mhm. Okay, okay, right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, if we are to take, now let us take for the sake of example. Actually, does that make sense?
Mm.
Blue,
Yeah.
yellow, red, and white. It is basically because you cannot pick holes. Very difficult to pick holes in it,
Okay,
right? To create
Mhm.
friction with it.
right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
because of that, it is easier. Now, when we take the other parts, right, it is very easy to push it aside. Now, especially with like foulness, it can very
Mhm.
easily push it aside.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas it is very suitable, the Varna customers are very suitable for the hateful temperament. Yes, Dev.
Mhm. Thank
And
you.
then, I don't know, that can be said. Yeah, Bhante, what is the, now general, we know this Buddhanu, Dhammanu, Sanghanu, we know morality, Siranu, we know Chaganu, Devanu. What is peace in English? What is that?
Samananusati.
Pardon?
Samananusati.
Sorry?
Samananusati.
Thank you, Bhante.
Samananusati.
Samananusati. Thank you, Bhante.
Wait, Samananusati, right?
Samananusati. Thank you, Bhante.
It's Upasamanusati.
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 Thank you, Bhante.
Right? Upasamanusati. Upasamanusati.
Thank you, Bhante.
Peace. Okay.
Okay, when you talk about the color cussiness,
Hmm.
will the color give some sort of soothing effect to the mind? It's sort of a sort of colorful soothing effect to the mind that will actually subdue the hate feeling.
Yes, that is also there. That is why they always paint the prisons in multicolors.
That's right, yes.
And also since the 1960s, the color of the world has reduced, making it a place more prone to depression and anxiety and stuff like that. So now with color therapy, telling people to paint their houses in different colors and all of these things, or to have colorful ornaments in the house and all of that, it lifts the mood for sure. Yeah, it lifts the mood. Yeah.
Bhante, then how is it that, I don't know, when you do all these chakras, now the base chakras are red and yellow and orange, and then as you go higher, it's very peaceful, green, blue, violet, right?
Yeah.
You would think the others are much brighter. How does that relate, Bhante?
Well, I think it's two very different areas, I would think, because when you take auras and the way that auras are, and also how colors mix. Now, for example, the white aura is a mix of all auras.
Yeah.
Right. It is like that base color that comes when all auras mix, So it is, I think it is very different in the way that, it is presented.
Right.
in terms of it is two different things.
Yeah.
The aura is far more sort of in light of the color that, you can literally see with the machine, isn't it? Right. With the aura that you have, the energy that you give. Here, the color, the science of color, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Because now they measure the aura and they actually tell you your color.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a different science, I think, compared to what is coming in Abhidhamma. Probably. I don't know, Bhante, but it was very interesting.
Why do you say what is coming?
No, I mean, like what we are talking here, when the color is brighter and things like that, the word is, you were saying, Bhante, that now the world is getting darker and this, of course, that is dark and light, but like when you do these chakras and when they're measuring your auras and things, if it is sort of, even if it is just pink, right, it's kind of, soft and is considerably higher before you even go into violet. So, but here, bright colors, as you say, in prisons, they use very bright colors, right? So the brighter colors are red and yellow and orange. It gets more substitute in green. So I think they're two different systems. I don't know, Bhante. I'm just asking. I just wondered. Anyway, Bhante, that's just a
Yeah,
thought.
maybe interesting to look into it and see what that difference is or how that sort of happens. All right. So shall we leave it there for today? Yeah, and we will continue on next time. All right, everyone. So I will see you all on Wednesday for the continuation of Prapancha. Take care and have a wonderful rest of the evening.
Thank you for
Thank you, Bhante. Teruvan
Teruvan
Saranai.
Sarana Bhante, Teruvan Sarana.